All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Kakodash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to us younger brothers. And peace and blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect out there pushing this word in truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. Pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful elect of believers and listeners whom have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. All right. I want to get into it in transit. And this is, laying back and off a lesson I did yesterday. And, mainly that lesson was speaking about, brothers, going into, you don't have to beg a believer, you know, and, women were mentioned, all right, but the focal point of that lesson was speaking, about brothers, man, first and foremost myself, okay, because whenever, there's a time, almost every time I get ready to do a lesson, then we'll get into the main lesson. But almost every time that I get ready to do a lesson, there's always something that's trying to resist me from doing the lesson. And that's something that, I have to fight through, every time. And the thing that makes me fight through is the belief, the faith, and I will always look at how obsessed I was with particular things in the world, and I would be condemned like, well, if this was, a woman calling in the world, you will find some energy. If it was time to go to the club, you will find, some time and energy. And, I'd be condemned, and it made me get my ass up and do what needed to be done. That's what makes me, I always look at it from that standpoint. So, mainly yesterday that lesson, was speaking to mostly for the men, okay? Because we have to understand there's a different, requirement, responsibilities, and expectation that the Lord has for his sons and that he has for, the women, okay? The hopeful elect women, of Israel. So there was a sister, and she's a sister that's been consistent, watching, and she hasn't been, active as much, watching, I guess, which I know sometimes sisters watching don't respond. Some sisters watching don't speak. Some, speak, often or whatever. So, she made the statement that, she's been dealing, taking care of her grandmother, So I guess she felt, condemned about, the lesson. I guess she's not able to be around as much as she used to. But I'm saying this. I'm bringing it up to say this. There's a different, expectation that the Lord has for his men, his sons, because see, we're becoming rulers. Okay, so we have a large, responsibility that has been given to us, as we've awakened to the truth. As men, there's a lot that's required of brothers. Okay, and that portion of responsibility that we have, all right, you women don't have that responsibility. Now, on your end, that's why the title of the lesson, just be a woman. That's going to take you a long way, okay, just being a woman. Because what, you women have to understand, you few sisters that listen and watch, what you have to understand is that in Esau's, empire, he targeted the tribes. And he put emphasis on making the women of the tribes, especially the southern kingdom, he put emphasis, all right, on having them in the spirit of rebellion and getting them out their purpose as a woman, The woman has been weaponized, all right? The women of the tribes have been weaponized against the men in their nation, which ultimately destroys the man, woman, and child. And that's why you see the state of our people, because the woman has been weaponized to where she's not even functioning as a woman anymore. When you look at the modern woman, this generation of women, the majority of them don't even function as women anymore. Okay? Like a Glorilla, that's not natural. Okay? An independent woman, a single mother, that's not natural. That's not of nature. Okay? Especially as being Israelites, which is supposed to be the example of righteousness in the earth. Okay? So what you have to understand is women, Esau has removed you so far from your purpose, okay, to most women don't even know what being a woman is. Okay? Because they see so many unnatural examples of what a woman is. What a woman's supposed to be. The representation of women are not real women in this society. Okay, that's why it's so easy for a transformer to imitate a woman, because a woman has been watered down to pretty much what? A sex symbol in this society. Okay? So when I'm saying in the spirit, just be a woman, well, you have to tap into being a woman. You know, because the sister was speaking about, I think she said she was taking care of her grandmother, and that was the spirit, because you gotta think the last generation of real women was pretty much our grandmothers. You know, some maybe great grandmothers, because different women started choosing feminism, you know, at different times. You know, so when you look at today, this is third, fourth, you know, because feminism started in the 60s. So you got 40, you know, 25. So you have third, fourth, even some fifth generation feminists. Okay? Like we're on the fifth, like the fourth, between the fourth and fifth generation of feminism. Okay? And that's a culture, all right, that removes women from their purpose as women. Okay? So when there's like certain dogs, you know, hound dogs, hunting dogs, they don't have to really be trained, because their behavior is bred in them. So they're born, all right, with certain instincts. Okay? Because they've been bred so many generations to do a particular thing. Okay? So you gotta think with feminism, you know, you had several generations that have been bred to act the same way, okay, to behave the same way, okay. So it's to the point now that feminism is in a lot of women instincts. Okay, that's why they defend it to the death, because it's in their instincts now. So the thing about coming to the truth, you know, you becoming a new creature as a woman, you have to get back to being a woman, and we're going to get into that. Okay? Remember, you've been taught since your birth to be weaponized, to be a weapon to the Israelite man. That's why Esau set you up for failure. That's what you women have to understand. Esau set you up for complete failure. Nothing that you learn from this nigga helps you in any way. Look at the results you got. Look at your results. You know? That's why you don't start getting better results until you start submitting to a better way. Okay? So, going back to the point, this man Esau set you up for complete failure. He turned you into a weapon. Okay? You went from being a woman to a weapon. That's why your whole purpose, okay, became to what? Belittle the man, keep the man, you know, self-esteem low. All right, to destroy them in the courtroom. Okay, to keep them from his children. You know, and I'm just saying general things. You know, not every woman has done all these things, but just saying in general, just speaking in general. Okay? Because you look at the power that the serpent gave you, the only power that Esau gave women was the power to destroy their nation and themselves. Okay? So when you come into this truth, you're coming into something that's bigger than you, because in feminism, it taught you to put your emotions over logic. Okay? It taught you to be a hyper individual. Okay? Feminism taught women to be a hyper individual. To most women, they can't function in a group. They can only function solo because they're such a hyper individual. They don't even know how to think. Okay? They don't even know how to reason. Okay? In the group setting. Okay? They don't know what it means to be selfless and to sacrifice. Okay? In the group setting. Because feminism taught women to be what? Hyper individuals, man, to where every decision you make, if it don't direct, okay, which is a nature, okay, made to be independent. Even the Israelite man, when Adam was, okay, when Adam was given Eve, what did the Lord say? It's not good for man to be alone. So if it wasn't good for man to be alone, how much more was it good for a woman to be alone? The weaker vessel. Okay? And you've been alone for so long, so many generations of women have been by themselves that they have what? Developed masculine traits, because you gotta survive. You go into this workforce and you gotta be masculine to survive. Because now you got to go be a provider, you gotta try to be disciplinary, okay? The outside, and you gotta try to protect the children from the outside environment, and it puts you in this masculine frame to where you're not even compatible with masculine men. Okay? So I like, yeah, it should be back now. But you look at it, you know, women have developed such masculine traits that they just not compatible. Even if they sincerely, want to do right, they just have these traits in them that make them just incompatible with men. And see, this is the truth. It's about becoming a new creature. And see, these are the things that you women have to start recognizing, man. Okay? You don't understand the damage that has been done to you over the generations. That's why, going back to the title of the lesson, just be a woman. You see? And a normal woman is rare in this society, man. You got a lot of women that don't know any normal women. They only know the westernized, Miss Independent, bad bitch, or whatever. That's all they know. That's their only version of a woman that they have access to. There's a lot of women that don't even know real women. A normal woman. That's why you gotta, that's why a lot of my perceptions that I get, especially when I used to do ride share, but even, before then, I love talking to, the elderly, dealing with the elderly Jake and the elderly women, and the perspective that they have and comparing it with today is completely different, because like I said, you gotta talk to the elderly just to talk to normal people again. Like, this generation here that's before us is not normal. Okay? So going back to the point, you women first have to recognize the damage that has been done to y'all by this system, by Esau Edom. Okay? You have to recognize that. Alright? And you should despise that because of what it did to you and what it did to your nation, man. Okay? Just as men, we have to despise that old nigga who he was, man. Everything about him. We don't partially hate that nigga. I hate everything about that old nigga, man. Because he was counterproductive for the nation, man. Okay? So, when you go into just being a woman, if a brother can post some precepts, because even when it said, with Genesis, when he said he made Adam like a help unto himself, well, according to Adam's profession, he was a ruler. So Eve wasn't meant to be his co-ruler. She wasn't meant to be queen. That's why we didn't have queens in Israel. She was supposed to assist and run his background while he ruled. Okay? That's another thing. You women think that you're supposed to be, that's why you hear Eve talking about, I'm looking for a partner. The man is not your partner. Okay? The man is your head. Okay? You're supposed to assist the man's running his background, not to be on the forefront with him like that. Okay? And there's another thing that feminism taught our women, to play the front. Okay? No, you're supposed to be in the back. because those things need to be handled in order for men to be able to reach their potential. It helps when you have a woman that's able to run your background for you while you're on the forefront making moves. Okay? But this whole, power couple, and no, the power couple is the Israelite man with Yahweh Bashim Al-Shai. That's the power couple. You see? And from the power couple, the women and children benefit. Okay? But you look in today how unnatural women are, because see, women, you're supposed to be occupied in children and grandchildren and nephews and nieces. You're supposed to be occupied in those things, preparing the next generation. Okay? That's why I say, you look at our grandmothers, a lot of our grandmothers, man, their whole day consisted of what? Caring for children. Rearing up, helping, the next generation of mothers, and helping the next generation. That's why they call grandmother. Okay? It's like a high-ranking mother. You see? A woman is supposed to be occupied in womanly things. Women are supposed to have certain skills. The major thing that's off with this system, the woman got way too much free time. Okay? But when you have land and particular things, and you have to live off the land, and you have to have wisdom in the crops and the plants and the herbs and this, and how to can and how to do this, and you don't have time. Okay, like in this society, the woman can just track the man all day. Esau got technology where the woman can just track the man. The woman just sit there, look at the man, they analyze all his flaws, and you see. And I'm gonna tell you some things that women do that's off, because you women got so much free time to where you can just sit and analyze a man all day. You just sit and analyze this man all day. You recognize every flaw. So when he tries to hold you accountable, you bring up a flaw of his that has nothing to do with anything. Okay? Because you got so much free time trying to track how he moves. Okay? You're supposed to be doing that with children. You see? In this society, it has become normal for the woman, all right, to treat the man like a child. Okay? That ain't what women do. Women assist. Okay? Women are helpmeets. That means you assist that man in whatever his profession is. But you do it in the background. Okay? Instead of looking at this man trying to nitpick and have flaws, and you should be looking at, how can I assist him more? You should be learning this man. That's another thing. Women have been, feminism taught women, that they should be the main character, what they call relationships. You think a man's peace is supposed to begin and end with you. You think his happiness is supposed to begin and end with you. You think you women think that the man, all right, you're supposed to be the main character in this man's life. Okay, that's why women are so offended about other women, because they feel like, because this society taught the woman that shit, if you giving a man a box, then shit, that's the greatest achievement that this nigga can have. You gave him some box, so now that's the greatest achievement. He should be satisfied. It don't work like that. You see, you're not the man's main character. The man's life doesn't revolve around you and your emotions, man. Okay? No, you're supposed to be, as a woman, watching and seeing how you can assist in every way. You're supposed to be serving. See, this society, because it took the woman out of her purpose of serving her husband, okay, to where she can just serve her emotions and herself and how she feels and her ego, and so she's been removed from serving her husband, okay, which removes her from being a woman. But as a woman, a real woman was created, okay, to assist. Okay? A woman was created to assist. Okay? So when you're watching a man, it's not you're not supposed to be just trying to watch his flaws. Okay, you're trying to time him. You know, trying to get his schedule down so you can try to control him, or you know, all this old, like the scriptures say, you know, the woman mind full of snares and traps. You know, all this manipulation, and you know, in this society, you know, the woman try to bring all her lifetime trauma and just put it in the man lap and like, here, deal with it, nigga. No, man. Okay, you're supposed to add to that man peace. Okay, and when I say add, because speaking to brothers, you know, real quick, brothers, the woman can't be, all right, the beginning and the end of your peace. Now she can add to the peace that you already have, all right, but she can't be your peace. Okay, as a man, you should, our peace is, as men of Yahweh Bashim Al Shai, our peace is in Yahweh Shai, man. Okay, that's our peace of mind, because you know, you can have the woman and not have Yahweh Shai, okay, then you really don't have the true comforter, man. You can't be, you really can't be at peace. You might can be comfortable according to this world term, but you really wouldn't have peace, especially understanding the thing that's coming. You really wouldn't have peace. Okay? But you can remove everything and have Yahweh Shai still have peace, man. So brothers, we have to understand our peace is in Yahweh Shai. Okay? And a woman, she's supposed to come and add to that peace, man. Okay? Not take away from it. You know? With all the madness that she got, you know, trying to make the, you know, the women come in and, you know, because like I say, women, you've been programmed to be a weapon, not a woman. Okay? That's why you know, you manipulate the man to think he's a villain some type of way. Somehow he becomes a villain. Okay? Nothing he do is good enough. Like I say, you nitpick, you know, you watch for his flaws and you bring it up and you get held accountable and all this shit. You've been made to be a weapon, not a woman. That ain't what women do. Okay? Like I'm saying, just going, you know, raised around my grandparents, I didn't see women act like that. You know? It was a different way that they acted. It was a certain level of respect that they had for their husbands, man. Okay? That was women. That was women when they was women. Okay? Well, I say, you've been, you know, most women have been so enchanted and so indoctrinated with feminism that they're not even operating as women anymore. They're just operating as weapons. Okay? So going back to it, you women, you have to just be a woman. That's your thing. You know, brothers not looking for you to be able to go into Daniel 7th chapter and, you know, put this down, break that down. You know, you watch, you know, I know, especially you want to be in the loop dealing with the news, okay? But the brother is not looking for a you know, an apprentice prophet. You know, yep, that spirit, you know, of trying to be deep, you know, trying to go toe to toe intellectually with a man, that's excellent spirit, man. Okay, a woman should be occupied with womanly things. Okay, trying to you know, trying to prove that you're smarter than the man, and you know, you have some women, you know, they correct you one time and something, now, you know, they equal with you or above you now intellectually because they correct you something on one time. You're just sitting there looking for opportunity to correct the man. That's off, man. Okay? I say you're trying to be his intellectual equal or superior, trying to prove. That's off, man. Men don't like that shit. That's another thing like I was saying. You women, you don't understand men. Okay? You don't understand men. You see? You really don't have a clue of how to please men because you don't understand men. You don't know how to add to his peace because you don't understand men. Okay? Because you've been taught that you're the main character. Your happiness is the only thing that matters. Damn the kid's future, damn the husband, damn the nation. Your individual happiness, all right, is the only thing that matters, and that's comes from what? Feminism. Okay? Which is completely off. Okay? Because being a woman, like, that's a science, and and being a woman is a beautiful thing. Like, when you see a woman operating her natural order, like, you're seeing the wisdom of the Most High. Like, damn, like, that's on point and that's needed. You see, for nation building, women in their order is needed, man. Okay? But going back to the point, like, being a woman, like, you can be an elite at being a woman because, okay, you go into cooking and cleaning, okay. Well, in order to understand what needs to be cooked, you need to understand the man, okay? Because men are different. Men bodies react to different things different. Men got certain different regiments. So the thing with a woman, you sisters, you need to start back learning men, not trying to go precept for precept with a brother, okay? Trying to go be deep, okay? No, you need to be learning men so you can be a better servant, okay? Yeah, that should be your focus, man. You don't have to watch every live stream or be here and there, on everybody coming board. You should be occupied with becoming a woman, an elite woman. But to become a woman, you have to understand men. Okay? You should understand, okay, like, I know the Elder Zahab talking about, he goes to this nurse practitioner. She's an Eve. So she helps him out, helps him out with his health. So I'm thinking, like, well, your woman is supposed to be like that, man. Your woman she should know the body, how the body aches. You might have a man that do hard labor. Well, you should be an expert in, the body. How does the body work? How to relieve stress on the body. You may have a man that's in a position of manager or supervisor. Well, he needs clarity. You should understand, okay, what's going to give him clarity, what type of sleep. That's the thing you should be on. Okay? Not trying to figure out his password. Okay? Not trying to, time him, how long it take him to get from work. Okay? None of this silly shit that this world taught you, man. And that's another thing. You trying to be a prison ward to a man, that's not, men don't operate on those elements, man. Alright, men need to just be. Okay? You see? But see, nobody is teaching women this, man. Women are only being taught, okay, their happiness above everything. Their so-called happiness, man, because it's up and down all over the goddamn place. Okay? But at the end of the day, the main thing that you sisters need to be tapping into is learning men. You don't know men. Okay? You should be occupied with learning men. Okay? And you should be increasing, going into, the righteous acts, because of course there's going to be things that are said that you're going to be offended at, but then you have to learn, okay, I feel this way, but what's needed? Like, what's needed for the bigger picture? Okay, put yourself to the side. What's needed? Okay, you study our foremothers, man. Okay, they were cut different. Like Abigail, the scripture called Abigail a woman of good understanding. She told King David, look, when her husband died, okay, Lord judge that nigga, but she told King David, I'll be your servant. You see? And remember, she was a wealthy woman. Remember all the victuals that she had got for King David and his men? She was a wealthy woman, and the scriptures say she was beautiful, but what's the main thing that the main thing should stand out? Says she was a woman of understanding. She understood what being a woman was. Okay? She intervened in the situation to where innocent people, would have got killed. You see? And she intervened in that situation. Okay? And when it played out how it played out, and she told King David, "I'll be your servants, man." It was a completely different mindset. And Esau removed women so far from that mindset of being a servant to being a weapon. Okay, the majority of women do not know what it means to be a woman. They don't know what a woman is. A lot of women never even seen no example of what a woman is, man. Between reality shows, that's why women, these women today, you think it's normal damn time, man. That's not normal. Okay? So the main objective of the story is to what? Okay, just be a woman. Tap into being a woman. That's a whole occupation within itself. You see, Esau removed you from that purpose and got you all over the goddamn place, man. So you don't know what's up, down, left, right, what to do next. It's just a bunch of randomness because you're not in your purpose. And this kingdom doesn't allow women to be women. Okay, you're forced to be in survival mode. Okay, you're forced to be, in these situations where you have to be masculine. Okay, you've been given this liberty. Okay, so you in all these different relationships. You got these spirits on you. You're traumatized. Okay, that they teach you to play the victim, and every man is the villain. That Tyler Perry shit. You see. So you come around and you're not compatible with no one because you're not a woman. So you're not compatible with masculine men. Okay? That's your fight as a woman, is to get back to being a woman. Okay? That's your main fight as women, to get back to being a woman. Okay? Understanding what that means. Understanding men. You see? So you look at, this, like say, this system, and this is why we know that, Esau, he purposely did that because, like I say, the woman is vital, to nation building. And the woman, out of her purpose, you see the chaos. So the truth is about everybody getting back into their purpose, man. The sons of God getting back into that mindset of becoming rulers, righteous rulers, man. Understanding the responsibility that comes with rulership. You see, that's why I say the Lord has completely different expectation for the men and women. It's completely different. Okay? And with his sons, we're understanding righteous judgment. We're understanding balance. We're understanding how to be brotherly, man. We're getting back to, giving our life, to the ministry, man. Serving something that's higher than us. Okay? You see, we don't feel no type of way because Yahweh Shah has other servants. Okay? We don't even care about the rank. We just happy to be here. Okay? It's 144,000 first fruit. So, brother can be the 110,000. Yeah, man. The brother can be the 110,000, man. He's gonna be happy as hell. 144,000, man. Happy as hell. Okay? But then it comes to the woman, one other woman, and you lose your goddamn mind. Okay? That main character syndrome. That's some other shit you women gotta get over, man. You not the main character in that man's life, man. That man has a lot of responsibility, man. You are part of his responsibility, but you are not the main character, man. Okay? Gotta get over that shit, man. You see? And you sit there offended and not making any changes, your lips poke out, and you still, thinking you cool and you gonna slide by. Okay? Nah, man. Hey, it's gonna be some major surprises, man. Okay? It's gonna be some major surprises if you still in that spirit and you think you gonna be covered, man. The Lord not dealing with that shit, man. That shit is not needed. Okay? We're being conformed, all right, to righteousness, man. You see, it's way bigger, all right, than what you bring to the table. What you bring to the table is way bigger than that shit. Okay, we're a part of something way bigger than that, man. The Lord is finna start an eternal righteous dynasty in the earth, man. Okay, that's why I say, and the Lord has His men on another level to where, as women, to be compatible with these men, you gotta level up. Okay, in order to be compatible with these men, the sons of God that the Lord is raising up in the earth, you gonna have to level up, man. But first, you need to get back to being a woman. A lot of you need to get back to being a woman. Okay? Here it is. You trying to, well, why y'all don't talk about the Northern Kingdom? Okay? You worried about who we're talking about, okay, instead of making the adjustments. You see? You're worried about what brother you sold. You come with this authoritative, that's the whole point. You see? So, and you got, and I'm gonna say this too. These little cliques in the background, these little cliques of women that in the background talking shit, but then, jump on camera like they down and they cool. And you sisters is in that shit, you better get out that shit, man. Okay? These little crypto feminists that's in the background, and they acting like they cool and they talking shit, and you know they off, okay, and you in that shit, especially these little group of just single stray Hebrew women that's just out here, and you better be mindful of that shit. All right, separate yourself from that, because the Lord, and that's another thing, women have feminism. Has removed consequences from actions. That's why, you see the modern woman just do shit, like consequences don't exist. Okay? Because you think that you can play this goddamn victim card. Because feminism allows a woman to be forever victim. No matter what they do, they can be forever victim. That's another thing. You women gotta get out that victimhood mentality, man. A lot of the problems in your life is based on your poor decision making. Okay? You get to make these poor decisions, but then the men in general are the villains for your poor decision making. Oh man, you gotta get out that victim mentality mode, that victim mindset, man. Okay? You're not no goddamn victim, man. Okay, you're a weapon. You see? And Esau turned you loose, okay, to be your own head, all right? And it was like dropping a nuclear bomb on the nation, man. Okay? And we're living in the aftermath of it, man. So this whole, playing this victim, all right? You gotta get over that shit too. Especially you play victim, and then the man that you meet after all your poor decision making, he's the villain. Somehow, all your poor decision making is linked to this man that you've known for 2 months. You see, you gotta get out all that shit, man. That shit, all that shit that used to work in the 90s, early 2000s, 2010, that shit done. The spirit is on a whole nother way. That shit don't work no more. Okay, all the sympathy is gone. Okay, keep your story to yourself. All right, that shit play it out. You need to come in and have a mindset of a servant. Okay, have a mindset of humility. Have a mindset that I'm part of something that's way bigger than me, and I'm privileged to be here. Okay, all this entitlement that you have, that feminism gave you, that shit ain't gonna work. Okay, you're gonna be out there. You see, you're gonna keep getting those same results. Okay, so going back to the moral of the lesson, most women, don't know what it is to be a woman, and for you sisters that sincerely believe, you need to focus on becoming an expert in a woman that'll help me. You need to learn men. I said all that, I went on this rant to say that you need to learn men focus on becoming an expert at being a woman, at being a servant, at being a help. Okay, you should be watching men and learning, not looking for a flaw. Okay, so you can have something to fall back on when you get corrected. Okay, that don't work for you. You just become, you still getting the same results. All right, with that same behavior, man. Okay, when you watch videos, when you should be listening to brothers speak, not to hear a brother misspeak. Okay, or look for, try to hold, try to remember something he said so you can bring it up later on and try to use it against him and all. No, you should be listening to see how can I serve better. When we read the Bible as men, we're looking to see how can we serve better. Okay, imagine us reading the Bible and looking for a mistake, so we can have a one up on, come on, man. I don't even feel comfortable saying that. You see? Well, imagine we looking in the Bible so we can look for a mistake so we can, come on. No, we read the Bible to see, okay, what do I need, what adjustment I need to make. So when you women, when you're looking at men, even if you're a single woman, you should be listening to brothers and kind of getting familiar with, okay, men in general, and be like, okay, I need to start adjusting this and that. My brothers really ain't into that. They this is what they own. I've been hearing brothers talk about this lady, this is what they own. Let me, you should be making those adjustments, man. And even when you make those adjustments, don't feel like you entitled because you're making those. And just another thing, because you can be skillful, but then you become entitled. You feel like you owe something now, just because you're doing things. Now you feel like you're entitled and owe something. Okay, that's another thing too. You can't watch, and you just, it's certain brothers like, okay, this brother is worthy of me. These other brothers, like all these ain't men of the Lord. You don't want to have that mindset. Like, nah, you want to be getting yourself together, man, and letting the Lord play these things out, man. Okay, you see, and then you women, you should sit on the bench when it comes to trying to pick a man, because that's been a atrocity. Okay, a lot of you women, you just need to kind of sit on the bench. You need to just go, go back to the gym, focus on becoming a woman, and let the Lord guide that. Because you just jumping out there trying to pick something, and you feel like, okay, this brother is worthy of me. You coming in with that mentality, you're gonna be off, man. And let's say we watch you pick men for about two, 3 generations, and that shit been terrible, man. Okay, a lot of you women like 0 for 20. Okay, and 21. Just let the Lord do 21. You don't went 0 for 20. Let the Lord do 21, and let it, shit. You see, but that's the point, man. Just wanted to go into that. Lord will, your brothers, all right, and you sisters edified. Once again, we give all praise and glory and Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Kakadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards your brothers. And peace and blessing salutations to the hopeful. Shalom.